Hello everyone. Welcome to my third session on SQL Server basic uh, training. So today, what we are going to cover is how to move databases. Basically, first I'll show you how to move databases, user databases, MSDB model, TempDB, and then master. So that will be one part of the training today. And the other part that I'll be covering today is security, about SQL Server security. So basically, I'll talk about authentication, authorization, and permissions. These are the three basic things I'll talk about. And there is some theory. So we'll do theory on security, then go on to demo. But for the first part, where is all moving databases, there is no theory. So let's jump into the demo directly. So let me show you what we're going to do. So let me switch to my SSMS. Right. This is my SSMS, and let's go there. Okay. So this is where I want to move my database. This is called FG test1. That's the database I want to move from one drive to another. As I don't have multiple drives on my laptop, I'm going to move it from one folder to another. That's what I'm going to do. So let's have a look. Let's first check where the files are. So now if you see, the files are in the MS SQL folder. I will try and move them to the SQL 2022 folder. So the first step you need to do when you're moving a user database is ask your application team to stop all connections to your database. Otherwise, transactions will be happening, and if you detach and move it, then all the transactions will be lost. So you want them to be stopped, and you cannot detach the database if the users are working on it. So for example, if I try and go to this detach that I was talking about, oh sorry, let me be in the database itself. Let's look at that. So while the test one, I am on that database, and if I select the splits on that, so it's not showing me anything. So there is nothing connected to that database, so I can easily, happily go and detach it. So let's try that. Right, so it's saying it is being in use, so you cannot detach it. That's what you have to make sure that nobody is using it. So you can use this command here to kill any connections that are there. So I'll use master and then try this to detach it. So that's the first part of your moving done. So you've detached your databases. The files are ready to be copied over. So the second step is to copy the files from one drive to another. In my case, I'll just copy them from one location to another folder. So let me go in here, File Explorer. So my files were in the MS SQL folder. So these are there. So I'll just copy them over to the SQL 2022. That's where I want to move them. Right. And I'll copy them. Oh, right. One thing you have to be careful when moving databases, just be careful that whatever folder you're moving or whatever drive you're moving, check the permissions on that drive, like on properties and security. You need to check the permission for the SQL server, your service account. So in my case, this is the service account that I'm using, MS SQL Laptop SQL. So that's the service account which I'm using. That's why I have added that, and it should have full control on your folder. Then only it will let you attach. Otherwise, you'll get a security error or a permissions error. So just make sure that is done before you try the attach part, which is the third step. So we copied the files over. So let's look at the third step. Let's go back. So this is the command. That's all you need to keep. Create database, and this is what you have to remember for attach. That's the most important part, which I right. So now let's run that. Let's execute that. So that's completed. Now let's use the database. And if you see this, right now it has moved to DMS SQL. That's what. So that's as simple as that, moving a user database. That's what it is. Now let's move on to moving the system databases. So what we need to do is when you're moving your system databases, so if they're on C drive and they're getting full, then you might need to move them. So what you can do is you can move TempDB, model, and MSDB together. And for master database, there is a separate process which I will show later. For the first three databases I talked about, that is model, MSDB, and TempDB. The process is quite simple. The first step is now I'll show you the first step first. So let's first is to get what I like to do is get the current location. This is the current location. We are using this master files system table to get the data information. So what you can do is just copy it and keep it in an Excel spreadsheet. So let me start my Excel 1 second. Uh, yes, sorry, sorry for that. So here I'm just copy. I started Excel now. I'll just copy those details. So just these details are there. These are for your safety. And if something goes wrong, you can always go back to those files if something goes wrong. So these are my files. This is master details. This is DB details. These are your model and MSDB. So now there's an MS SQL folder. I want to move them to SQL 2022. So let me go back to the SSMS. And so what this you need to do is you need to give this command. These are the new locations. Now, right now, what we are doing is we are giving the new location of the files where we want to move them in the system table. We are not physically moving them right now. We're just giving the new information. SQL will keep continuing reading it from the old locations till we have moved the files and restart the SQL Server. So this is the first step. We are just updating the system table. So this is the first step. So I'll just modify all the files you have to do. If you want to move all the files, if you don't want to move whatever files you want to move, you just modify these files. This is the command you need to give. Alternative is modify file, and that is the location, new location you want to give. So I have given all MSS SQL 2022. That's what I've given. This is for TempDB, then for model, and then for MSDB. So now let's give that, execute that command, right? Okay, so looks like 1 second. Okay, so it's saying that file doesn't exist. Let's go back and see temp2, temp3, and temp4. So let's go back and check from here. I'm getting that error. So okay, so this is the file. Let's look at that. Okay, so what's wrong with that one? Let's look at this. Okay, temp2 is there. So still giving that error. So okay, let's check that again. Okay, okay. Let's have a look. Okay, well, let's look at MDB. What this is doing. Well, okay, let's do this. Okay, sorry. So this is not the command. So this is select from this file. Right. So I have only two files, and why master is showing that? Hmm, that's very interesting. So anyway, what we'll do is we'll just try and move this. So we'll leave that as it is. So we'll try and move that. So the files so the command was right. SQL Server was right, giving me the correct information. It was saying that those files are not there. These files are not there. So This means that this master sysalt files is giving me the wrong location. Uh, okay, so let's leave that as it is. I will not run that. So let's check now. Okay, so we've given a new location for the files which exist for TempDB. These three files are not there, so this is not work. So that is this is not taking the new location. That's fine now. So we'll just move these two files. That's what we have. So you have to be careful what files you move. So this way, you know what files you have. The files are not there, so I can't move them. So that's my mistake. So looks like last time when I moved the files, I didn't attach these files. So that's why my TempDB doesn't have all the files, and my script is still old. Sorry for that. So let's now what we have done is we've given it the new locations. Now what we need to do is we need to stop the SQL Server service and move the files physically. That's the second step. And then uh, we need to start the SQL Server services. That's the third step. So let's do the second step first now. So what we will do is we'll go into Configuration Manager. Configuration Manager. Let me stop this. Okay, the service is stopped. SQL Server service is stopped now. So now I'll go back to my File Explorer, and my files are in MSSQL folder. So I will copy master model ms, not master, sorry, model msdb log, and I need to copy two more files, which is my tempdb. Let's copy that and tempdb log. These are my 6 files which I need to copy. So I'll copy these ones, copy that to my SQL 2022 folder. Okay, so I'll just copy them here. So there's already a file, but I'll replace that file because I was testing earlier. That file is there. So that's all you need to do. You've moved it to a new folder, and you need to start SQL Server Services now. So we'll start that. Okay, the services are started, and we can go back and have a look. So if you look at this, and so we have temp dev and temp log at the new location. These files are not there, and this is at the model event DB log that they are at the new location. So this is the way you can move tempdb, msdb, and model to the new location. So these are the steps, 3 point steps, how that you can use. So now I will show you how to move the master database. For that, what you need to do is you need to go into your configuration manager and right click on this services and go into properties and go into startup parameters. Here you'll see this parameter. This is the first -d and -l. These specify the location of your master file, master database file. So we want to move from MS SQL to SQL 2022. So what you need to do is click on update. Okay, sorry. So you click on that, come here and change this and say SQL 2022. That might be your new location that where you want the master database to go, and click on update. That's what it will do. And similarly for the log file, you just go in here and give SQL 2022 and click on update. That's done. So that's all we need to do here. And you click on apply, and it will say that these things have not taken effect until you start the services. So you click on OK. Now what, again, as in previous steps we did for moving system database, we need to stop the SQL Server services. So what we need to do is, and then copy the file. So let's stop the SQL Server service. Stop it. Right, that's stopped. And now we will copy the master file. So master file, master database file. So which was in my MS SQL folder. So now I will copy this master and log. Right. So let me copy this. G and SQL. 2022. Let me copy it here. Okay. So I've copied the files here now. And now we just need to start the SQL Server services. So let's start that. Okay. Okay. The service has started. So now look, let's go back to SQL Server's Management Studio and check that. So if I've done that, okay. So master is in SQL 2022, and even master database files have now to the new location. So that's how you can do. I have not deleted the old files. I like to keep them there for some few days. So in case your user starts complaining, you can always connect to the old files and bring your SQL Server up. So you could leave them for some days and then delete them. That's up to you. Uh, or if you want to delete them right away. But I would recommend that you keep them for a few days, let users work and everything looks okay, then you can remove them. That's the recommended one. So in master, when you move the master database, there is one more thing that you need to change. There is a registry setting that you need to change. So let me show you where that is. So we need to go. I'll just get that because I don't remember usually. So I'll just get the information from here. Okay, so now we need to go into H key. Yeah, so if I go to the page edit, okay, so I'll have to start it as an administrator, otherwise I will maybe will do it. So now this is the setting you need to change, otherwise, sorry, uh, done as administrator. Sorry. Okay, okay. So in that you need to go into, I'll show you from here, it's already there. So you know, need to go into H local machine, software, Microsoft, and then Microsoft SQL Server, it's that SQL Server, and your instance, so SQL 16 and laptop and setup. And when you go into setup, in there, there is this SQL path, this folder, yeah, SQL data root. That is the one we need to make sure that you change. Otherwise, if you don't change this, make this change, your database will keep running, but the problem will come when you're applying any service pack or any cumulative hotfix. Then the problem will come because SQL, the setup program will not be able to find the master database. So you need to change that wherever you have shifted your master database to. So I'll change it to SQL 2020. I'll just do that, click on OK, and make this change to the registry. So that's all you need to do to the registry. So these are the steps that you need to do to move. First, I showed you about the user databases, then about the master database. So that's all we are going to cover for moving databases. And now I will talk about the security. So just that's all for the moving databases part. Okay. So we'll start now on the security part that we plan to cover today. So in SQL Server, there are two concepts in security. So there's quite a bit of theory that I'll talk about for 5 to 10 minutes. Sorry for that. So these concepts are important. So if you know them, then the demo will make more sense. So I'll just talk about them and then we'll look at the demo. So the first concept is about authentication and authorization. So what is authentication? This is the process of where this is the process where SQL Server identifies that you are who you are. That is basically like when you go to your office, you have your ID card. It says your XYZ. So that says that you are XYZ. So that's the process where it is determined that you are who you are. So there are two ways in SQL Server you can do it. You can use Windows AD or within SQL Server, you can use it. So SQL Server can itself authenticate users, and or we can use Windows authentication. In Windows authentication, whatever user is trying to get onto the service will be authenticated by Windows. Windows will say, yes, this is XYZ, so let them in. So that's the concept of authentication. What is authorization? So authorization is the process. Once you get into your office and you move around, what are the resources that you can use? What are the places you can go? Some might be restricted. So in that sense, authorization is the process of knowing. that what all things you can do and what you cannot do. Similarly, in SQL Server, what a person or a login can do, or what resources he can use, or what tables he can access, what views he can access, what he can do or not do is the process of authorization. In SQL Server, there are two concepts in again there, uh, which is this authorization is done through two parts. One is the securables. These are the things that uh, people can use. So this could be your tables, your databases, your views, any objects. So which people a user can use. These are called securables, and the principals are the entities, are the users, user groups, user logins, and processes who can use these securables. So these are the two concepts in authorization. So let's go ahead. So again, the second concept in security, how to grant permissions to all your users. There are two concepts again. You can use roles. Uh, you can add all your principals, the logins and the users I talked about, to roles, and you can use those roles to grant permissions on the objects you want the users to grant permissions to. Or there is another way at a granular level, you can use command like grant remove commands on each securable. So on a table, you can still go and say grant select to this user. So that's how you can go granular and give specific permissions onto a securable to a user, right? So that's what you can do. Then there is a concept of login versus users. This is very important that I want to talk about. So what are logins? Logins are created at the server level. This is basically for all your authorization at the server level and authentication at the server level. So your logins will be at the server level. Once the user once a login is added to a database and has access to the database, it's called a user there. So database at the database level, you have users. So these are the two concepts in SQL Server. So you have to be very careful. So if you create a login at the server level and don't give any permissions on any other database, you cannot do anything. They will be part of the public group and they cannot do anything. So you need to add them as users to each database. Uh, then there is since 2012, there is a concept called contained database. In contained database, the users need not have a login. So earlier versions, you need to have login mapped to a user. So you need to have a login, then only you can use it. Even now, that is possible, but it is also possible that user is there in the database but doesn't have any login on the server level. So that is also possible. That is called a contained database, and that's for introduced in SQL 2012, and that helps in moving your database from one server to another server. I'm sure some of you might have come across the problem of logins not mapping. So it resolves that problem. So each database is a contained database, and you can move it independently of the logins at the server level. So that's the concept of logins and users. Let's go ahead. Okay, so now I'll talk about the types of roles that are there in SQL Server. One is the server, so based on the scope on where they're, what level they apply on. So there are server level roles. So these roles will allow you to manage permissions at the server level. And then you have database level roles. These roles will allow you to manage permissions at this database level. Then again, the roles are based on who created these roles. There are a lot of built-in roles. I will show you to them in a minute. And otherwise, if all the built-in roles that are there provided by SQL Server do not meet your requirement, you can create your user-defined roles. So this is another concept. This is another thing that you can do to grant permissions. So create your own roles and grant permissions on that role and add users to that. So that's how you can do it. So the roles are of two types in that way. And let's have a look at the list of built-in roles. So I'll just click on this link. So I skip verification. So this is the link that gives all the server level roles, built-in server level roles. So let's go down. Okay. So this is the roles. So you have sysadmin role. Sysadmin is like a person who can do anything on your server. You can stop, start, do anything. Server admin, they are like sysadmin, except they cannot shut down the server. Security admin, these are the people who can grant and deny server level permission. And so and then process admin are people who can stop, can end a process and stop a process running in SQL Server. They can kill a process. For example, you don't want you have a team of your admins or your help desk people who you want them to give permission so that they can kill some sessions which are long running. Then you can give them process admin. Then there is bulk admin, disk admin, DB creator. So these are the various roles. I'll not read each one of them. You can read them. DB creator basically lets all the users in that group create a database. So these are the server level rules, right? So if these do not meet your requirements, then you can create a user defined server level rule. So let's look at that's about the server level built-in roles. Let's look about the database level built-in roles. Let's talk about that. So these are your server level role, the database level role. Sorry for that. Okay. So you have your DB owner. That's like sysadmin on the server level, but on the database level, DB owner is the owner of database. They can do anything. They can drop objects, create objects, do anything. Security again, they can grant users access to the database. And access admin is they can add users. Security admin can revoke and grant permissions, but they cannot add users. So that's the difference between two. Backup operator is the one which can take backups. So these are all, then you have your data reader and data writer. So writer is people who can write data, and data readers are basically who can do selects on your data. So that's the permissions. And deny is they cannot write, and deny reader is again deny the select permission. So these are server level roles. Sorry, not server level roles. I'm sorry for that. Database level roles. So these are the database level roles, built-in database level roles. And if you need your own, you can add your own roles. So that's about roles. Let's go back to the presentation. Okay. Okay. Let's go next. Right. So the permissions hierarchy. This is the how permissions move from one level to another. So first is the server level permissions. So these are permissions for the entire instance of the SQL Server. So for example, create permission will be a create database. So you give a create database permission at the server level, and so that's where it will be at the server level. Then you have a database level permissions. These apply to the database that you have given. So this could be like create table, create view, select table, select from a table, select from a view, things like that, which are scoped to the database. These are database level permissions. Then you have schema level permissions. Again, these apply to the schema level as the other ones. So it's quite imaginative. And so it's as simple as that. So they apply to the schema level. So this could be a DMVO schema or any other schema you want to give permissions to. Then you have object level permission. These are basically applied to individual objects like table, views, or so. So if you want to give at a very granular level, you can give these permissions. For example, you want to give select on a table, select on a view, or anything like that. You can use the object level permissions. So this is the hierarchy of the permissions that how the permission move from the more higher level to the lower level. These are the hierarchy of the permissions. So that's about the permission hierarchy. And some of the best practices, and one more thing I wanted to say is before I talk about the best practices is that the most restrictive permissions apply. So if you have given different permissions to a user, and say for example from a group he has read and write permissions, but you go onto an object and give him a deny permission, then the deny permission will be applied. So the most restrictive permissions are applied when there are different permissions that user gets from different sources. So that's one thing I wanted to let you guys know. Then, some best practices is create a group for sysadmin. So on your servers, it is recommended to create a group for sysadmin. It could be a Windows group or it could be a domain group, any group, and add all your admins in there. And then you can disable your SA account. So do that. It's a security best practice because everyone knows SA is there in SQL Server, so people can use it. And if you are using your SA for applications, stop using that. it is quite risky. So that is what is the best practice that I've talked about. Then use domain service account for SQL services. That's that's recommended. And try to use groups when giving permissions. Basically, so use roles. So basically, put the users in groups so that you can give them permissions easily. For example, you have marketing, sales, or whatever teams you have, you can give those. Add those groups, create those groups, add users to them. So your permission management is easier. And remove all your built-in service accounts except your NT authority system, which is needed for always on availability. So these are the best practices. And this is the big lecture about security that I wanted to give. Sorry for the long lecture on that theory. So let's quickly dive in to the interesting part, which is the demo part. So let's go in there. Okay, so to the security demo, I wanted to show you first what I've done on my Windows laptop, on the laptop side. So this could be done on your Windows AD machine or on your SQL Server machine. So what I've done is basically I created an SQL admin group and I've created a marketing team group and an accounts team group. So I'll use those to grant permissions and show you the demo. And I'll just show you the users which are there. So let me show it from here. In SQL admin, we have one user called SQL admin 1. And in marketing team, we have called marketing 1 and marketing 2. Very creative, but that's what I could think of. And that's accounts 1 and accounts 2. So that's not very creative, but that's all I could think of. So that's what I put in. So let's go and look how we will get permission. So the first thing I wanted to show is let's go into Object Explorer. And for example, we wanted to add the marketing group. So what you need to do is if you want to add a group to the SQL Server, so you go into security. Okay. And so right now I'm adding this login, right? So I'll go in there, say new login. And this is from Windows, so we'll use Windows authentication for that group. So we'll go into search. I'm being lazy, I don't want to type it. So it's location where my group is, region, this one, my laptop. Go into locations, click on check names. Okay, sorry, click on advanced and you say find now. So it'll give you all list of all the users, but it doesn't have groups. So I need to change it. So if you look at this, it doesn't have any. I had SQL admin group, it is not there. So it is showing SQL admin 1 and 2, but no SQL admin group. So I need to change it here. Go into object type and select groups as well. So I click on OK, click on OK, and don't want it. I wanted to add SQL admin, so delete that one. And let's go on advanced. Let's find it again. Let's do everything again and go into SQL admin. Find our SQL admin group. Okay, right. This is my SQL admin group. I'll add that. Click on OK, right, and click on OK again. Now I want this group to be sysadmin, so I will add it as sysadmin. So this is at the server level. We are adding this. These are all again the server level built-in roles. I'm adding as sysadmin. Click on OK. Let me move it a little this side and click on OK. Right. So we have added SQL admin to this. So now I will show you what all this SQL admin can do. Yeah, so what I can do is let's go back. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'll tell you, if you're a sysadmin, there is a command where you can impersonate the other person's login. So what we are going to do is we are going to impersonate as SQL admin 1. That is the user within the SQL admin group. So what we'll do is we'll call it SQL admin 1. So execute as login SQL admin 1. So this is a permission a sysadmin can use. So now whatever I do, I will be doing as SQL admin 1. So I'll have to choose master database for this. So I'll just use that master database and run this command. Now if I check, I am logged in as SQL admin 1. So that's what it is. Now if I say select start from sys processes, right? and run that. It will let me run. So now I'm logged in as sysadmin. I can go into, so I'll say use any databases because I'm sysadmin. I can do any database. I can go to Stack Overflow. I have a Stack Overflow database. I can go in there, right, and select top 10 from users. So that's my table. So I can just select. So now I'm sysadmin and I can do it. So this way I have granted access to uh, SQL admin 1, which is a sysadmin on my database, on my server. And now if I want to go back to user and I want to go back to being what I was, I just need to say revert, right? And if I check now, right? So now I'm Anup Agarwal. That's what I was, and back to being myself. So that's a very handy way of checking permission. So if some user is not having some issues with the permissions, then this is a very handy way. This is what I will do in my demo. And also there is a no command I will talk about to check permissions later. So now that's we have added a Windows login on to SQL Server. Now I will show you how to add a SQL Server login from my SSMS. So let's go in there. Now let's go back to the new login and let's call it SQL login. Not very creative, but yeah, that's what we'll do. It's on my system, on my test. So you can call it SQL login test. But when you're creating for your own uh, official or in your offices, then just give a meaningful name so that everybody could understand. And we choose SQL Server authentication and it'll say give a password. You'll have to give password here. And now when we are saying enforce password policy, this will use the policy that you have on your Windows server. So if it, in my laptop, whatever my local laptop has, it will have that permission. And that is what it will use. And same for the password expiration. So I will remove, but I leave this and we'll see how it works. Okay. So let me get this. Let me fix again. Sorry, I'm not good at typing passwords, but just bear with me. Okay, so that's what I've done. We created a SQL Server login. This is a SQL Server authentication login, right? So this is what we have created, and we'll give. There is another thing you can do is server user mapping. So for example, here from this GUI only, if you want to give this login and access to the database, create it as a user on a database, you can do it from here. So let's give it access to my test, and let's say, yeah. So let's give it a permission from here and click on okay, click OK, right? So I've created that login. So now let's try and log in as that user. So let's say file new query with new connection. No, I wanted to. Okay, so let's do connect Object Explorer. Let's do that. I want to connect this. I want to use SQL authentication, and that login is called SQL login, and that is password. Okay, so it will ask me to change the password because we selected that. So I'll just change the password. Okay, so it's connected. So I'm now connected as SQL login. As you can see here, if I click on databases, it will show all. Okay, but if I, for example, if I say new query on this, right, it's trying to connect. Right. Okay. So it's not connected to that database. If you look, it's connected me to master. It didn't let me connect to that database, right? So I was trying to do a query to the my. So we gave permission only on my test. So if I try and use any other database, for example, use Stack Overflow and click go, it will say you don't have access to that database. So we added it to only use. I think so. My test. There's one or three. I forgot, but you can try. Right? So it has given onion. So now this login can only log in. This login we can use only access to the database we have given. So that's how it works. So let's go back. So I'll show you some few more things about security. Let's go back. right? Let's now look at how we can add logins from the TSQL command. So let's look at that. So, okay, so this is my, yeah. So for example, now I want to add the accounts team group to the server. So create that login. So I'll just say create login from Windows. That's as simple as that. If you create a SQL Server login, you'll have to say create login, and you'll have to give the login name and the password. So that is the difference. But I will look at only the Windows one. So we'll just add this, right? So this is added, right? Now if I select, so I'll just use that. Okay. So if I go, this runs from syslogins, you'll see this accounts team has been added. That's how you can check. Now let's go to the demo script, and now let's work at this user accounts one, right? Let's work as that user. Okay. Now I run this. So now I'm as accounts one user, right? And now if I say use Stack Overflow, he gave me an error. It's not added. So now let's go back. Add this guy to the user, this person as a user on the database. So we'll say use Stack Overflow to 2010. So I'm a sysadmin in this window, so I can add it. So now what you have to do is, this is the command to add a user to the database. So you say create user from what login, right? So that's all you have to give, right? And click that. Let's start name. So now if I go this users, this guy is here. This is accounts team, right? So this has been added. This not the use the group has been added. Now let's go back. So we didn't add the user. We added the group. So let's see, does he have now permission? So let's cross check. This was accounts one. Still we are account one. Let's try and use, right? So it is letting me get onto the database. Now, if I say select star from users, it will not, it will say there is no permissions on the object level. So now I am a user on the database, but I cannot access any of the objects right now. So we need to give permissions for that. So let's go and give this permissions. Go back. Okay, so let's add this group as a data reader, right? Okay, so let's do that. Okay, and now let's go back here and try and right. So now I can get data as well. So this user can get data as well. So this is now has permissions on the on the on the tables to select tables as well, right? So now let's look at something else also. So okay, so now let's do one thing. Let's see if this guy can this user can update the permission. So yeah, I want to update, right? So let's try and update, right? So I wanted to convert this to two decimals, right? For this ID, this is what I have. At this, as this user, I want to, right? It doesn't have update permissions right now. So this user cannot make any updates on that table because we gave only data reader. We didn't give any data writer. That is another group you could have added. Added this user to another role that we could have added to, but we didn't add it to that role. So that's why it cannot update. So let's go back. Okay. And I will, let me do this. Okay, so yeah, so I, instead of granting permission to this accounts one user, I want to grant permission to accounts two. So I will do that. Okay, let's go and switch being running as accounts two. So let's switch it being accounts two quickly. Okay, so first revert, we have to revert back. For being reverting again, you have to be in master database to revert back. So let's revert back. Okay, let's go back to being revert and cross check, right? So I'm like back, and now let's copy this and execute as, because we gave update permissions to accounts two user, and let's run that. Okay, and let's cross check, right? There we are. Let's go down. Okay, okay, let me use Stack Overflow. Where is my, yeah, that's my command, right? And let's try and run an update. Right, so let's try and update. So this accounts two can update the table. Accounts one still will not be able to do it as we saw earlier. because we gave a explicit permission on the object. So that's what I talked about. So this is the hierarchy uh, of the permission. So right now we are giving permissions on the object. That's the lowest level we can go on, right? So that's what we are getting, right? Now, so even though if you look at that, okay, so that's that. Now, okay, so yeah, so there is a stored procedure we have. I have this is a common scenario in your company. So you add users to maybe the DB reader and writer group, and then they want to execute stored procedures. So for example, if I run now to try and execute a stored procedure, it will say exec permission is not allowed. So let's go and give that permission. So right, okay, yeah, okay. So I will grant the drop indexes, exec on drop indexes to the accounts team, right? So that's what I want to do. I've done that. Now, if I go back and run this, it will let me execute. But if you have, oh, so if you have only one stored procedure, that's fine. You can go and give permissions like that. But if you have number of stored procedures and you have number of users, how can you do that? So, so all the users you can add it to one group. So that's what we have already done. All the users are in my accounts group, accounts team group. But I want to give them permissions on all the stored procedures that are there. So how do we do that? I'll show you that. So I have three stored procedures. I'll just go into Object Explorer uh, and again. So let's quickly show you the stored procedures. Stack Overflow. Where is my programmability and stored? I have four stored procedures, and so I want to give permissions on all of them to my accounts team. So what I need to do? Okay, so first you create a role. Let's just call it SPExec. Right, it's already there. So let me call it SPExec or something like that. I hope that's not there. My demo. Oh, that's good. So now you add to this role. You created a role. We're adding this group accounts team to this role. Okay. So we added that. And now what we need to do this is grant exec. So we're granting execute on the schema, which is DBO. And the schema, DBO schema has all your stored procedures, right? So we're granting exec on, this is the way we're granting permissions at the schema level. So all the objects within that schema will that user will get the permissions. So let's do that. Okay. Let's run this. Let's run exec 43. Okay, one second. Okay, let me think. I didn't do this. Oh, I didn't run this command. So let's run it again. Oh, so it's on sp exec exec. So that's why it was giving an error because we have added accounts team to sp exec 4 role, right? So I was doing the wrong thing. So I need to be careful. I need to get this here and same grant permission to the right role, not the wrong one. So let's go back and let's run it this. And on this, so it's able to run only in stored procedures. So let me try 4. Let's say I can run. So this way, you can give exec or any permissions on a schema to a group of users. So this is one way you can do it. So now, finally, I just wanted to talk about is yeah, one more thing I wanted to say, show you was, so I do a select star from vote types, right? I am accounts 2 user. Now, if I go back and deny, let me do one thing, show you one thing. Yeah, okay. So I will make it accounts 2 because I'm logged in as that. So if I say deny select on vote types to accounts 2 user, okay, but so let's do that. Now, this counts to user is part of data reader, right? So it should be able to read all the tables. But now we have explicitly given deny on a specific table. So the permission which is most restricted, which is the deny, will be applied. So let's go and check that. If I try to do this now, I'll say you don't have select permission. So that's how. So yeah, that's how the permissions are applied. The most restrictive permissions are applied. Now, in your organization, you have a lot of users you added to a group, you gave them permissions here and there, and maybe not you, someone else who had who been working early. And a user comes to you and says, "Oh, I can't do this and I can't do that." There is a function I wanted to show, and which will help you find out what permissions that user has. One way you could test is impersonation that I showed you earlier. The other way is to there's a stored procedure, okay, which is called uh, function my permissions, right? This helps you check the permissions of any login, even your own permissions. So let's check for my own. Right now I'm logged in as admin in this window. So let's go. So this is my as an admin. These are the permissions I have at the server level. So here you specify the object that you want and at what level you want to see the permission. When it is server or database, you can specify null and it will give you all server level permissions. So I am sysadmin, I can do view any database, view server state. I can do anything that I said, right? So that's what it is. Everything is there. So now if I go check my own permissions once again at the data, I use the database and run it at the database level. Again, it's saying create table, view table. I have all the permissions. This was this that. Now let's assume that a user that accounts to user has a problem and he says, I don't have this permission. You can go in there, start as that user and go check what permissions he has at the server level, right? So he's just to connect and he can only view any database. That's all he can do. He cannot do anything else, right? So now if I go to the database, I'm already in there. So if I check his permissions at the database level, so he can connect, select, okay? That's all he can do because it's DB reader. And if I want to check on an object, for example, on the user's object, so if I select that, right? Yes, selects on all the columns. It show you the object and the columns. So that is for the tables, right? So if I check on the stored procedure, it will say it has execute permission. Now we can also check on that table on which we didn't give both types, right? So let's check that as well. So let's copy this. So if I check on that both types, okay, this is my user two. So let's check permissions, right? It doesn't have any permission, right? So it doesn't have any permissions on that because we denied permissions on that one. So that's how you can check and find out what permissions they have, remove, add, whatever you want to do. So that's all I wanted to show in today's security session as well. Hope you could understand something. And if you have any questions and anything is not clear, you can drop me a message in our WhatsApp group or in YouTube as well. I'll try and respond as soon as I can. Thanks for joining in. Have a great day.